Things were normal for me back then. I sometimes dream I'm normal, even now, but that is not the case. My sanity fled from me, and I'm just a husk of the man I used to be. Back when I was normal, when I was sane, I was a writer. Sometimes I fancied myself being on par with the greats, Poe, Lovecraft, Dickens, and all the other greats of their time. Sadly, this was not the case, though. I was more on par with pitiful and lousy. Maybe I'm being a bit too hard on myself. I wasn't among the greats, but I did make a living at it. That does count for something, and it's more than most people can say. But enough about my former life. It's forever gone, and it shall never return. The only reason I brought it up was to tell you I've not always been the wretched human that I've become. I was happy and quite sane back then, but that was long ago. Nothing more than a faint memory. I still dream of those days, wish for them, but I know they shall never return. What I wish for now, most of all, is death, because then the damn tiny beast would haunt me no more. I wish for that always in my waking moments, death and silence. That would be bliss to me. My troubles began one fine spring night while I sat at my table having a nice tall beer. I remember the night well, the taste of the beer. God, how I miss that taste. I wish I could have just one more. That's not too much to ask for. You've taken everything else from me. You've taken my life, my job, my sanity. What's one more beer? Just one more beer, then death. That's not too much to ask for. I could die a happy man with just one more beer. Then death, because silence would be sure to follow. Enough of that. I'm certain it will never be. So I'll get back to the story. But God, just one more beer. That night started off so well, but it didn't last. Nothing ever does. That night drove me to the brink of madness, then shoved me right into the abyss beyond. But before madness overtook me, I wrote it all down. I still remember what I wrote. It was the best writing of my life, the work of a genius, or perhaps a madman. I don't believe there's much of a difference. There's only a slight margin between the two. I remember what I wrote, word for word. And now I'll tell you my tale. Here I sit, I drink and I think. Then I hear the blasted noise of the tiny little creature. No more can I think. The infernal racket builds, and it builds until all conscious thought be driven from my mind. And still this beast insists that it must continue creating this infernal racket. It's more than enough to drive one's sanity away, because this damn little creature insists that it must keep making this infernal racket. The noise builds and builds until my ears feel like they must surely burst. And still this damn little beast insists that it must make its incessant racket. When I can take it no more, I get up and look for this blasted little creature. Then it ceases making the damn noise. Such sweet silence. But I must find this damn little beast before it can begin to make its hideous noise once more. I must rid myself of the beast, because I fear my sanity can't take much more. I already feel it slipping. I search high and low, but to no avail. The beast is hidden. It's hidden so well. No sooner than I sit down to think and drink, It begins to make its blasted racket once more. Enough, I say. This must cease, and cease right now, or my sanity may cease to be. When I've had enough, and can take it no more, I leap from my chair, and I search, but I search in vain. No matter how much I search, I find not this vile creature. It remains silent as I search. Not a sound does it make. It be no help to me at all. No sooner than I tire of my search and settle back in my chair to resume drinking and thinking, then this unfound beast begins once again with its damn incessant noise. It is enough to drive me insane. Call the insane asylum, and call it this instant. Anything would be better than to suffer this beast hideous noise. Call them this minute. Reserve that nice padded room. Anything would be better than to suffer with this beast hideous noise another second. Finally, peace and quiet. I'm done with the beast. It will bother me no more. I can no longer drink, but at least I can think. That hideous beast is at last quiet and gone. Dr. Jack Daniels. I wrote several weeks ago about my patient, Ben Hill, and told about the story he tells if you take the time to listen to him. I said you have to listen very carefully and observe him for some time because he rants, raves, and screams for long periods of times. You have to be very patient to get all the story. I thought I'd been patient enough, but I now realize I wasn't. I thought there had to be more to the story, but until recently, there wasn't any more. I didn't think that what I originally wrote was enough to drive someone's sanity from them, but you can never tell. Sometimes it takes so little. The tiniest thing can do it. But enough of that. Since I wrote that story, I've uncovered more. So now I'll tell you the rest of the story. I hope I have been patient enough to get it all, but I will continue to observe him. I hope in time to find a treatment for Ben by examining all the facts. Maybe I'll eventually be able to help him get well. This is his story in his own words. Ben Hill's story, Part 2. Before the night of the beast, I was mostly normal, but a lot of things happened to me that night to send me over the edge. Things might have still turned out okay for me. I spent a few months in a padded room and got better, but the beast wasn't done. The nightmare had just begun. I was released after several months, after my sanity had returned, but I guess it didn't completely return. I returned home in the beginning of the summer, but my ordeal wasn't over. It was just beginning. Unfortunately, my sanity was only back for a brief visit, but those were wonderful days, blissful. The weather was perfect, and my writing was the best it had ever been. I still wasn't on the same level with Poe, Lovecraft, or Dickens, but I had moved from competent up to pretty damn good. That was very encouraging, but it was not to last. My trouble showed back up a few days after I got back home, in the same form as before. The tiny little beast in the wall returned, and this time it intended to stay for eternity. My sanity departed, never more to return, evermore to remain on permanent vacation, to roam and remain in parts unknown. The night started off normal enough, just as it had before, but I soon realized the beast had returned. I was at my table, drinking and thinking, when the noise first started. At first it was quiet, as if it were a great distance away, but it soon got louder. It was almost as if the beast were searching for me. The noise grew and grew until it was almost unbearable. I jumped to my feet and began to search high and low, but the beast fell silent. I searched and I searched, but to no avail. No sooner had I ceased with the search and sat back down than the beast began its damn ghastly noise once more. I tried to ignore it. I tried to sit quietly and continue drinking and thinking, but the noise continued to build and build until my ears began to throb, and it drove all thought from my head. When I could take the noise, not even one moment longer, I jumped to my feet, and I searched, and I searched. The beast fell silent at once and made not a sound. When I tired of my search, I returned to my seat to resume drinking and thinking. No sooner than I sat, though, than the beast began to warm up so it could continue its damn infernal racket. The noise continued to build and build until my ears felt as if they must surely burst, and still the noise grew and grew. I began to rant and rave. I covered my ears, but the noise was still there. My ears pulsed and throbbed. All rational thought fled from that noise, but still the noise grew and grew. I could take the noise no more. My sanity fled, and I leapt to my feet so I could search for the answer. I was no longer searching for that tiny little beast in the wall. Not yet, anyway. I was searching for the solution. This was my downfall. It's what led to my damnation. But my sanity had fled, and so all rational thought had as well. Instead of going in search of the beast, as I should have done, I went in search for the solution. I went to the drawer where I thought the answer surely was, but instead of holding the answer, it held the key to my damnation instead. I slowly opened the drawer. The beast kept up its assault on my ears, my sanity, and all that I held dear. The answer was there. It was right before me, as I knew it would be. I could see it quite clearly. It had been there all along. I reached into the drawer and picked up the answer. Then ever so silently, I drew back the hammer. I quietly entered the room of the beast. It continued its assault, but I paid it no mind. I walked to the wall where the beast seemed to be. Then I aimed and I fired. The beast fell silent, even as the shot still echoed around the room. I thought I'd gotten it. I thought it was over. I went to the table, put the gun there in front of me, and sat down once more. I resumed drinking and thinking, and began to congratulate myself for finding the answer. But within a few moments, the beast began once more, with its damn hideous noise. I screamed out in terror. The beast was no longer in front of me. It was now right behind me. I grabbed the gun, cocked the hammer, whirled, and fired. The beast fell silent. I thought I'd gotten it at last. My foe was surely vanquished. The beast was dead. I placed the gun on the table and resumed my drinking and thinking. All was silent at last, but that silence was temporary. It would not last. I thought it must be over, but moments later, the beast began once more with that hideous noise. I began to scream, rant, and rave. I picked up the gun. There were more beasts than one. They were everywhere, in this wall, in that, in the floor, in the ceiling. I began to fire this way and that until the gun was empty. But still I continued to pull the trigger. I screamed. I ranted about the beast in the wall. And all the while I continued to pull the trigger. I know not how long I sat there ranting, raving, and firing the empty gun. But it must have been some time. My neighbors called the police. The police arrived, took one look about the place, and called the men in the white jackets. My sanity was gone, driven from me by that hideous creature, so I didn't put up a fight when they put me in the straitjacket. In fact, I didn't put up a struggle at all until I saw that hideous beast come from its lair. It was as if the beast wanted to gloat. It had beaten me completely, but that was not enough. I began to stomp, scream, screech, but it easily escaped me. The beast had